what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Whether you're new to aviation or an experienced pilot looking to advance your skills, Go Vertical Aviation has you covered. With an excellent learning atmosphere and a staff committed to excellence in education, Go Vertical Aviation will customize a learning program just for you. For more information, go to goverticalaviation.com or call 256-412-5226. Be sure to follow Go Vertical Aviation on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn.
Don't just go. Go vertical.
Boutique Air in Muscle Shoals, Alabama offers direct flights to Atlanta, Nashville, and Pensacola. Boutique Air service runs twice daily, 7 days a week, with fares starting at $59. Follow Boutique Air Muscle Shoals on Facebook at Boutique Air MSL and book your flight through boutiqueair.com. Boutique Air,
where you can fly private for the cost of commercial.
no representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed is greater than the legal services performed by other lawyers. Many of you have now heard the term stepped-up basis and it possibly being eliminated, which is very concerning. I encourage you to schedule your free 15-minute consultation with attorney Harlan Mitchell to find out what you can do to protect yourself and your family. Schedule your appointment with attorney Harlan Mitchell by calling 256-216-9884 or by going to bamaestateplanning.com. Do it today.
Would you like enhanced energy, better moods, less fatigue, help with allergies, better sleep, mental clarity, or just want improvement of your overall immune health and well-being? Do you need to recover from intense activities, workouts, or sports? Then IV therapy at the Drip Factor inside Trinity Medical Center is right for you. Our IV drips are filled with nutrients, vitamins, and minerals that will help your body replenish, restore, and achieve your wellness goals. For more information, visit trinity-medicalcare.com and schedule your appointment today at Trinity Medical Center, located at 500 Governors Drive.
Experience the difference at Athens Bible School. The vision and purpose is to provide each student a quality education in a Christ-centered environment to develop the whole person spiritually, mentally, physically, and socially in safe and supportive surroundings. The solid biblical foundation permeates learning and culture in the classrooms and every extracurricular activity.
Hey everybody, this is Daryl Worley, and you're listening to The Mark White Show. Hey, step up and make a difference like he does.
Hey y'all, this is Jeff Foxworthy, and you can make a huge difference in somebody's life. You just may not have figured out how yet, and that's why you're listening to The Mark White Show.
Hi, this is Maggie Peterson. I played Charlene Darling on The Andy Griffith Show, and you are listening to The Mark White Show.
Hi folks, this is Ricky Skaggs, and you're listening to The Mark White Show.
Hello, I'm Gene Stallings, and this is The Mark White Show. Get off the sideline and get involved and make a difference in your community.
You are listening to The Mark White Show. My daddy is your host, Mark White.
Welcome to another edition of The Mark White Show. I am your host, Mark White, and I am so glad to be on location in Rogersville, Alabama at Lauderdale County High School. I'm looking at the football field as we speak, and to the right of me is Coach Ronnie Ritter. Last Sunday, a week ago, we had a congratulations party, if you will, for Coach Ritter as he closed out his career as a coach and an educator. Welcome to the Mark White Show, Coach Ritter.
Thank you, Mark. I really appreciate it.
First thing right off the bat, Coach, I want to say that it was an honor and a privilege to play for you here at Lauderdale County High School, to be a player on your team, to be a part of that. I know we've talked about how good a time it was, and you had the opportunity last week to be able to see a lot of guys who had played football for you before I was even there and talk about and reminisce about those teams that you had. I know that was a special moment to have that event there at Whitehead Baptist Church.
It was great to have I had a lot of church people that came, and then I had they were coaches that I had worked with. One of the coaches at Loretta, and a couple of the coaches from Russell High School came down, as well as John. But those old players, we had a really good time just talking about old times and old stories, and it was. I see some of those guys occasionally, but I don't see them very, very often, and it was really great just to be around them and hear their version of how they thought things went.
As grown men. I mean, they're at this point now, I know it's a different perspective when we're teenagers and we look at things differently, but when we're grown and we have families of our own, then we can look back on those stories and those moments and say, you know, that played a part in my life, or this had this impact, and we don't realize that until sometimes years later.
Right. You know, when you're 15, 16, 17 years old, even 18, and you're out there when it's so hot, and, you know, football is a tough game anyway. It's just by far, I believe, the toughest sport that you can participate in. And, you know, with the contact and the equipment and the heat and everything involved, it's such a difficult game. And sometimes when you're out there working so hard, it's hard to see the big picture. But like you said, as you grow older and you become an adult and you see, you know, sometimes life is pretty tough. And when you have gone through things like that and were able to overcome, it certainly, I think it makes it a lot easier as an adult.
And sometimes we'll wonder, why in the world am I being asked to do this? Like my granddad, when we had a riding lawnmower in the garage and he made me use the push mower instead. I'm wondering, why is Granddaddy making me do this? But at the same time, when guys are out on the football field, as you said, the big picture, they may not understand why this is being put into place and why they're having to do this, and that may be wind sprints, you know, or whatever else you give them to do, but there's a reason behind it.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you think it's just, I guess you think it's punishment, but there's almost nothing that you do that doesn't have a rhyme or reason to it. It's just sometimes hard to see. But, you know, everything has a purpose, and every drill and every wind sprint that you do, there's a reason you do it. And what's great, and one of the things that I always appreciated as time went along, and the players especially at Lauderdale County, but not just at Lauderdale County, at Decatur High School, Loretta, Russellville, Rogers, when your players believe in you and believe in what you're doing and they trust you and they do those things, it's just really rewarding then when they are able to accomplish things and feel good about themselves, because there's so many things that you gain as an athlete, but especially in football, because the confidence you gain will stay with you your entire life.
And you're passing on work ethic. And going back to work ethic, and we think about how we're raised. You were born, you said, in 1956?
1956.
And your parents, Luther and Agnes Ritter, what was your home life like? What caused the work ethic in you?
Well, you know, I didn't have hard times. We were a middle-class family. My mother worked at school as the secretary and bookkeeper. My dad worked at Reynolds, but we always worked, and I was kind of like you were talking about. We had we had a big yard, and we mowed it with a push mower. And when I was about 12, my dad bought a farm near Anderson that was 68 acres. And when he bought it, it was in pretty poor condition. There was a lot of thickets and a lot of wood that needed to be cut. And I spent the next 5 years picking up rocks and sling blading. We didn't have any weed eaters at the time, and cutting down trees and woods and burning brush piles. And at the time, I really didn't understand, but my dad and mother bought that property mainly for two reasons. One was so that my brother and I would have something to do. There was always something to do. And the other was he wanted to have something that he could leave us, some land that he wanted that he could leave us. And, now we've all got our spot. I've got my 17 acres, and I'm really proud of it. And I hope to leave that to my children. So it was a great childhood. We didn't work all the time. When my dad left to go to work, we would have a few things to do. But about 4 or 4:30, we were off, and we spent a lot of time riding bicycles and finding new swimming holes and fishing, and just anything you can think of to get out in the weather. That was a big part of my development, because that's what I love to do. I played baseball when I was young, and then as I got older, I got into football and basketball, and so sports were always a huge part of my life.
Were your parents athletes? Was that something that they appreciated, or how did you get led into the athletic community?
My grandmother, I believe, played basketball at Lauderdale County, but my mother was not an athlete. My dad never played any kind of sports. So, I don't know. I was just drawn to it at an early age. We always had a basketball goal. One thing we always did, I had a lot of cousins. And almost every Sunday, we had a big backyard, and they would be 15 or 20 guys out there, and we were playing tackle football. And it was rough. And I always tended to be one of the younger ones, so I had to either raise my game to survive.
You became a very good athlete. Actually, when I go back to the Alabama High School Athletic Association, I believe in 1972, you were all-state in the state of Alabama as a football player.
Well, I was honorable mention all-state. We played, my junior year, we were 10-0, and we got beat by Alexandria in the playoffs, first round. My senior year, we were 9-1 and got beat by Glencoe, who was the eventual state champion. And then the next year, that group behind me, they won the state championship, the only one that's been won here or in the county. So I think I was a pretty decent athlete. I know I tried hard, and I was the kind of guy that I was going to do what my coaches told me to do without question. And I think that helped me. And but it was I had a great career. I really enjoyed all of my time. In fact, this kind of gets off the subject just a little bit, but not much. My senior year, in the spring, we were running track, and that's what we did for our off season. But after track was over, Coach Grissom was having spring training, and his junior high coach had left. I don't remember the circumstance. I think he went back to Mississippi. A guy named Jim Smith, a really good guy. But he didn't have any junior high coaches. So he asked me and Carl Tate to have spring practice with the 7th and 8th graders. And we did. Now, you think about the liability now. We were out there with just us. There was no adults out there. But, you know, in 1974, people wasn't suing people all over the place. But anyway, we went through the whole spring, and we had an inter-squad game the last day of spring out here on this field, and I'll be honest with you, after that spring, I was hooked. I knew, I took some different little rabbit trails after that, but in the back of my mind, I always knew I wanted to coach, and eventually was lucky enough to get into it.
You went to college at UNA and Northwest Shoals as well?
No, I went to college at UNA for a year, Calhoun for a year, and then back to UNA to finish up.
Okay. I believe you were at Calhoun around the time my granddad was Dean of Students. Lynn Hedrick at the time was at Calhoun, so I think there was that connection even years later when you met my granddad and I came out here to play. But if it's okay with you, Coach, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, I want to talk about that college career, because we have a lot of graduates right now coming up. We're going to have some high school graduates. They're trying to decide what they want to do with themselves. We have college graduates. There may be somebody in their mind, they're thinking, I want to go and coach myself. I want to be a teacher, an educator. So we'll talk about that when we come back. Okay, Coach?
Yeah, that would be good.
Folks, right now we're talking to Coach Ronnie Ritter here in Lauderdale County, Rogersville, Alabama at Lauderdale County High School. I hope you'll stick with us. You are listening to The Mark White Show, and I'm your host, Mark White.
A little wink, a pat on the back, a big old hug, a little laugh. We can make a difference. All we have to do is try. Yeah, every day's a chance to change somebody else's life. Let's all do something good today.
Whether you're new to aviation or an experienced pilot looking to advance your skills, Go Vertical Aviation has you covered. With an excellent learning atmosphere and a staff committed to excellence in education, Go Vertical Aviation will customize a learning program just for you. For more information, go to goverticalaviation.com or call 256-412-5226. Be sure to follow Go Vertical Aviation on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn.
Don't just go. Go vertical.
Boutique Air in Muscle Shoals, Alabama offers direct flights to Atlanta, Nashville, and Pensacola. Boutique Air service runs twice daily, 7 days a week, with fares starting at $59. Follow Boutique Air Muscle Shoals on Facebook at Boutique Air MSL and book your flight through boutiqueair.com. Boutique Air,
where you can fly private for the cost of commercial.
The best way to buy, sell, and experience land is with Jonathan Berryhill. For your farm, ranch, recreational, hunting, timber, and acreage needs, contact National Land Realty Professional Jonathan Berryhill at 256-874-7354 or email at jberryhill@nationalland.com. Be sure to follow Jonathan Berryhill with National Land Realty on Facebook. This is your land. Thompson Roofing and Construction is a locally owned family business serving the North Alabama and Southern Tennessee area. They are a Better Business Bureau A+ member since 2011 and a GAF Master Elite Contractor. Give them a call at 256-952-3309 or check them out on the web at 256roofing.com. They offer free inspections.
Thompson Roofing and Construction.
No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed is greater than the legal services performed by other lawyers. Losing a loved one is hard, but losing a loved one and not having an estate plan is even harder. Attorney Harlan Mitchell witnessed what not having an estate plan can do to families and decided to use his experience to do something about it. I encourage you to go to BamaEstatePlanning.com or give Harlan Mitchell a call at 256-216-9884. Again, that website is BamaEstatePlanning.com. Let Harlan Mitchell help you with estate planning. Do it for those you love, and do it today.
He's got a cold, nothing to worry about.
Just need a couple of stitches.
Your COVID rapid test is negative.
Oh boy, X-ray shows it's broken.
Trust Trinity Medical Care when you need urgent care or routine medical care. Walk-ins are welcome, or let Trinity help you virtually with telemedicine. Visit trinity-medicalcare.com for more information and follow them on Facebook. Trinity Medical Care, where your care comes first. Located on Governor's Drive and South Parkway.
Hey everybody, this is Paul Overstreet, and you are listening to The Mark White Show.
stay tuned because Mark is doing some things on his show that's helping his community and uplifting people. So you stay with him.
He drives into the city, works extra hard all day, finishes up early so he can get away. 'Cause there's a blue-eyed kid on second base, wants Dad to watch him play. Daddy knows he.
Welcome back to a special edition of the Mark White Show. I am your host, Mark White, and so glad to be in Rogersville, Alabama at Lauderdale County High School right now. Would like to thank Casey Tate. Talked to him. He's the principal here at Lauderdale County High School. Told him me and Coach Ritter were going to have a legacy interview. I have Coach Ronnie Ritter with me right now. Welcome back to the Mark White Show, Coach.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
We were talking about your early days playing football with your cousins and then going to college and having that desire to be a coach because of what you and Mr. Tate had done by helping 7th and 8th graders out on the football field, and you felt it. You got that bug. When you went to college, you knew that you wanted to be an educator?
I did. When I went to UNA, I played football for a year. I was a walk-on, and I played during the Mickey Andrews. Most people remember him as the defensive coordinator at Florida State, but he spent I think about 3 or 4 years at UNA during the transition period between Coach Self, who had been extremely successful, but there was 2 or 3 coaches in between, so it was a tough time. Coach Andrews' primary objective at the time was to run people off. He was trying to get rid of everybody that he hadn't recruited. But anyway, I stayed a year. I really enjoyed it, and I knew I got to know a lot of people that later on really helped me. But after a year, I knew that my playing days were over. You know, you just, as a person, you know when it's time to move forward. So at that point, I moved forward, and I even helped the coach I referred to earlier, Coach Jim Smith. I helped him one year with the junior high team. We had a very good team. We were 7-1. Got beat by Dessler on the last play of the game. But anyway, during this time, I'm still getting a taste. I was working toward my degree and trying to get a teaching certificate, and as it all worked out, it just worked out. Everything seemed to fall into place. To be honest with you, when I was in college, most people are talking to their counselors, and they have people down there that were hired specially to help you navigate your time in college and take the right courses. Well, I never talked to those people. I just took classes. But when my time to graduate, I had everything I needed. So I always kind of felt like it was just meant to be, because I didn't really get a lot of guidance like I should have. I ended up with a degree in HPER, and I had a minor in English, of all things. Most people don't know this, but my first 10 years in education, I taught some English classes. I know it doesn't sound like it when you listen to me talk, but that's been a long time ago. But I was lucky enough, I got a job. I graduated at Christmas. At the time, I was working at Rogersville Marine for Donnie Newton and Lynn Greer. And I loved that job. I had a really good time, but I was able to get a job at Rogers High School and with Coach R.L. Godsey. His son is Bob Godsey, who's the head coach now at Madison Academy. He's had a great career also. But I stayed there for 3 years, and then from there I've moved around quite a bit, but every time I moved, it wasn't a long move. I didn't move, out of state. I stayed kind of in the northwest Alabama, and I tried to improve my job position, because I knew at some point that I wanted to be a head coach. And luckily, it all worked out, and I was able to get the job here in 1991 and stayed for 16 years.
Well, Coach, when we were at the event last Sunday and we look at all the various tables, and it kind of sets each one apart as part of your career and where you went from Decatur High School and even later on after Lauderdale County up into Loretta. and you have all of these different places, and they all make you into what you are. You coached baseball, you coached in basketball, you coached football. All across the board, you were willing to coach whatever was put in front of you.
Well, I don't know about now. I don't know exactly how everything works, but at that time, if you were coaching at a small school, you had to coach more than one sport, at least two. And I had many years where I coached three, and I tell you, that's pretty hard. That wears on you. At Rogers, I coached football. 2 of the years, I coached the varsity and the junior high football team, plus basketball, plus track. And then I went to Muscle Shoals after that, and over there I was also working with 3 sports. But after that, from then on, I went to Decatur for 6 years, and I never coached more than 2 sports over there. I was assistant football and head baseball. But one thing that I've got to mention, every school that I worked at, I was surrounded by great people. Coach Godsey was not only a great football coach, he was such a good person and a gentleman. Later, I worked with Brad Bradford and Mark Rice, and at Decatur, I worked with Coach Steve Rivers and Dwight Lawler and Mike Ward, who are all quality coaches. A little bit of trivia here. When I was at Decatur, our ball boy for about 3 years was Philip Rivers. And most of y'all know what Philip Rivers has done. Well, he's getting into it. He's going to be the head coach at one of the private schools in Gulf Shores, I think, or Mobile.
I heard he was going to be in South Alabama, so we wish him well. And I think about the fact that you were able to even help your son, John, over in Russellville High School. The Golden Tigers have a great reputation for football and athletics, and John had come from a school that we were talking about last week, 0-10, and he helped to build a program at West Morgan, and you were able to be a part of that with him at the point in your life where you can say, okay, son, I'm going to go and be able to assist you. How was that for you to be able to work with John and be a part of what he's doing?
Oh, it was unbelievable. At the time I had retired in Alabama, and I went to Loretta with Coach Lee Boyd. But the superintendent, John worked at West Morgan, and the superintendent over there was Bill Hopkins, an old friend of mine. And every time I had seen him, when I would go watch John's team play, he was always saying, you come on back. And he said, I'll give you a job. So I got 6 years in Tennessee, and it was just felt the right time. So I called Bill up, and I said, okay, I got a job as a halftime teacher and a coach at West Morgan with John, and like you said, he had turned an 0-10 team into a 10-2 team. So that was a great year, and then he was lucky enough to get the Russellville job, and again, I went with him, and again, it was, the superintendent is Dr. Heath Grimes, and Heath had played football at UNA with one of my former players, Cody Gross. So I'll tell you, I've just been lucky. I have had so much luck in my career, and I was lucky enough to get to know people early on when I was a young coach. I remember going to clinics with Coach Godsey. One day we were, at that time, the North and South All-Star game happened during the clinic, or the Friday of the clinic, and we were watching the North squad practice, and some guy came up behind Coach Godsey and got him in a bear hug, and they were laughing and carrying on, and I turned around and looked, and it was Pat Dye, and standing right next to him was Bobby Bowden. And listen, I'm 22 years old. I can't even open my mouth. I didn't say hardly anything. I look back on it, and I should have at least talked to him a little bit. But anyway, I was talking to Coach Godsey later, and his connection with them, he had coached at Abbeville in the 60s, and he had coached Leroy Cook. All you old Alabama fans that's as old as I am remember Leroy Cook was All-American from Abbeville. at Alabama, played for Coach Bryant, and then he was All-Pro in, I think, Washington for 7 or 8 years. So they had recruited him. Coach Dye was Coach Bryant's assistant, and Bobby Bowden was head coach of West Virginia. So he had, back then the recruiting rules were much less rigid than they are now.
Right.
You know, he even said, you know, they went bird hunting and fishing together. And but anyway, I was able to be around people like that. And then when at Decatur, same thing. I was around great coaches, and we met great coaches. I got to meet Coach Calvin, a great coach at Austin High School. Just that kind of thing was so instrumental in shaping me as a coach and hopefully as a person too. But I don't know, like I said, I've been really lucky and things have just fallen into place as I've gone along. And back to the original question, working with John was great. I was able to, I hope, give him some help, you know, at different times. But make no mistake about it, he was the boss. And I didn't not only didn't want to be the boss, I couldn't have been the boss. But he's doing an outstanding job at Russell. They are Russell is a special place. It's very unique. They love not just football, but they love sports. In fact, their soccer team is playing today at 7 o'clock for the state championship. Coach Trey Stanford.
I know Trey very well. He's from Limestone County as well. He was a kicker.
Yeah, he sure was. He was at UNA. The baseball team is playing today to get the semifinals. They're playing Alexandria. So Russell is just a unique place. I was able to work with him and a lot of other great coaches. The big thing that I see working with them was, you know, John down there has like 5 offensive assistants and 5 defensive assistants. Chris Ballantyne is his defense coordinator, he is a great coach. And there was times when I look back and I'm thinking, okay, he's got 12 assistants out here and I was doing it with 2. But the difference was I had 28 players and he has 88 players. So you really have to have a lot of coaches, you know, to do a good job and to break it down into groups like we do. But back to the original question, it's been great. I'll miss that day-to-day contact with him, but I'm still going to help some. I'm going to be more of an analyst.
Well, you know what? There's catchphrases that catch on in pop culture, and one of those is the process. What would you say was the process for you, Coach?
I looked at it. You know, I really grew up in an era. I don't know what everybody did, but in my high school career, we basically just got loose. Now, we didn't do any stretching. We were doing calisthenics, which was jumping jacks and climbing a mountain and all that stuff. And I was really tired before we ever started practicing doing all that stuff. But, you know, we scrimmaged most of the time. We didn't do a lot of individual things, but I was, over my career with the other coaches, I was introduced to more players and breaking down into smaller groups. So really, I guess my process was we taught from the part to whole. We would start, you know, with the linebackers, and we would work on their individual techniques, and from there we would put them in a little larger group where we were doing inside, where we teamed those guys with the defensive linemen working against plays, and then we would go from there to team activities where it was 11 on 11. And we basically did that in everything we did, no matter whether it was offense, defense, or kicking game. We tried to, by the time we got to an 11 on 11 situation, we tried to have them to know what to do. And so we're not out there coaching 11 guys at the same time. And because a lot of times when you do that, you end up, you're talking to one and there's 10 standing there, which is not a productive situation. But that's basically the way I approached it. And then, you know, the conditioning, this has been really interesting for me because at Russellville, we break things down. John breaks practices down into 5-minute increments, and we might have our group. For example, like this past year, I worked with offensive line, me and Coach Blackburn, and now we would have our guys quite a bit, but sometimes we would only have them for 15 minutes. And you might think 15 minutes not very long, but you can get a lot done. You can get a lot done in 5 minutes. If you are organized and you know what you're going to do, and you go from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. And but anyway, I was leading up to when I was the head coach here, and I think all the guys, even you can attest to this, we did a lot of conditioning. But we had to, because we generally had 28 to 35 players. At least half of them were going both ways. So you had to be in condition. And I know at Russellville, we have offensive players, we have defensive players, and then we have some guys that are just kicking specialists. So they practice so fast that you get a lot done in a shorter period of time, plus you get a lot of your conditioning done in practice. And we probably did too, but I was just hard-headed enough and old school enough to think that you had to run sprints at the end of practice. And that's probably an antiquated idea today. I don't know whether anybody still does that, but I know we did.
I remember. Well, you think about progress as a coach and watching young people. Say a player goes from 9th grade to 10th grade, 11th grade, and then finally a senior, and you can watch his or her progress, whatever sport you're in. And I was thinking about, as I was riding over here, the fact that we equate success to a certain goal or one item, and that may be for some people a championship. But if we don't appreciate progress, I'm not so sure that we can appreciate success and look back and say, this player here may not have been an exceptional top-tier player, but to watch him or her go from the very basics, learning about the sport, to grow into a pretty good athlete has to be a rewarding experience.
It is extremely rewarding, and I'll tell you something else that you learn as time goes along and you mature as a coach. When you first start out, I know when I went to Rogers, I had played at Lauderdale County, and my 3 varsity years, we were 7-3, 10-1, and 9-2. So, that's kind of what I thought you did. I think you practice, you play games, and you win. And I go to Rogers, and we're 2-8, 0-10, and 2-8. And they weren't bad teams. But we were, during that time, Rogers was a pretty big 3A school in 4 classes, and we were playing people that we really couldn't compete with. And it wasn't that we were so bad, it was just the other teams were really good. But I learned this, success and what you get from football is not tied to wins. Now, it's fun to win, obviously, and you want to win, but if you will stick it out and put the work in, you're a success. It doesn't matter how many games you won. We had a lot of successful seasons here. We had 12 teams that went to the playoffs out of 16. But we had a couple of years, where we were 1-9, and we had a 4-6 and a 4-7. But those guys, I can see them today, and they are just as proud as the ones who went 12-2, because you learn the same lessons. And I'm not sure that if you play on a 1-9 team that you don't learn more lessons than the guys at 12-2, because you already know how to deal with disappointment. And even in the best of times, once you become an adult and you get married and you have kids, you're going to have some tough times. And I think that those guys, they were probably as much or more prepared as the teams that won 12. So, it's not about winning and losing, but I know when you're doing it and when you're in the middle of that, you don't always think of that, and I know the fans don't always look at it that way, but you have a great opportunity in sports in general to learn things as a teenager that will stay with you. Well, that's one of the things at the get-together we had last Sunday. So many of those guys told me that what they learned in football has stayed with them their entire life up to now. Danny White, one of the first players on the first team I had here, right after high school, went to the Army, I think, for 7 years. After basic training, he got off and he came back for a visit before his next place that he went to. But he came by to see me, and I asked, I said, Danny, how was basic training? He said, it's a piece of cake. He said, once you've played football, he said, that other stuff, that's just easy. So I knew, you know, even that, and I have talked to him since then. He works at Browns Ferry now. He's got a great job. He's got a great wife. He's got 3 great kids, and he's living a great life and enjoying every minute of it. He's had 2 sons that played football here. One of them just graduating this year, Daniel. He's got a daughter playing softball at Wallace. So, you know, all those things to me is the totality. It's great to win, but there's a whole lot more to it than just winning ball games. The relationships, one of the things that I have really enjoyed about my career is that I have great friends in Green Hill, Muscle Shoals, Decatur, here, Loretta, and now Russellville. You can't replace that. There's nothing that can replace that. Along that, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention this, all these things that have been going on, I have had the best wife that you could possibly have, because Terry has been with me every step of the way. John and Catherine, when they were in school, you can't be a good, effective coach if you don't have a great family, especially a great wife, because it's a pretty tough life at times. But we've both enjoyed it, and we're looking forward now to the next thing.
What was interesting, I heard you say you teach Bible class. You teach a Bible class where you go to church, and that's another role that you've taken on to be able to help these young people. What does that mean to you?
Well, I hate to admit this, but the first guys that I coached at those other schools and in here would probably be shocked to know that I'm a Sunday school teacher. But I have learned, and I have matured, and God has directed me. Even when I wasn't a Christian, God had His hand on my life. And then when I became a Christian, it became a lot more obvious of how He was leading me. And I love my Sunday school class. It gives me an opportunity, for one thing, to talk about God and, you know, my blessings. Occasionally, I will have a person in my Sunday school class that I have coached, and we really have a good time with that. So, yeah, God has been so good to me and my family, and I count my blessings every day.
I want to mention before we go, we're actually sitting in front of the Pee Wee Melton Fieldhouse. Pee Wee, like so many others that wanted to be a part of the team, they came in as volunteers. They supported from the community. You've had a lot of that support most everywhere you've went. You've had people who dived into you as a coach and to the team and to be a part of that community.
Right. There's always people at every school who are like that. Now, Pee Wee was more of a Superman, because he worked at the water department, and then he was our trainer / head manager / everything. I spent a lot of time during my time at Lauderdale County working on the field, you know, with the grass, the watering systems, building new things, and Pee Wee was always here. Pee Wee died a few years ago. He had a problem with his knee and had surgery, and he got a blood clot, and it got him, and that was such a shock. But Pee Wee was a fixture here at Lauderdale County for years. I also had another guy that came along, who was actually in my PE class, Jeremy Whitehouse, that became a part of our program, and he was a special needs student, but he loved football, and I think he loved me because I know I love him. And Jeremy was at the get-together the other day too.
Well, Coach, it's been a great career, and again, as I said, I'm appreciative that I could be a small part of your career, along with many other guys who were out there. I look down at the end of the football field, and I see our Tiger football tradition, and there is a tradition there, and it continues on today with other coaches who have taken over the program. And I just want to encourage athletes who are listening right now. I know 2020 was a tough year. I know that many of your goals and dreams that you had for 2020, some of those were snuffed out, and you didn't have an opportunity to necessarily be able to do those things. But I want to encourage you to keep practicing, keep moving forward. You will have success. Your progress is your success, and I want you to find success. And as we move forward, just know that you have a community who supports you. If you're an athlete, I've always thought that was great. We had great family support as a player here. I remember going over on Thursdays to moms and dads' houses, so we would get together. Being a smaller team, we were able to do that. But the support of families, community, it all plays into what makes it very special to be an athlete, I believe.
Well, athletics in high school is a unique experience because you have a short period of time when you have the opportunity to be a high school athlete. And that's one reason that I always wanted my guys on the football team to play baseball and basketball and anything else they wanted to play, because this is the one and only time that you have to do that. And those memories and those things you learn will stick with you forever. I'm 64 years old, and some of these things we've talked about to me is like it happened yesterday. So all you young guys out there, if you want to play a sport, you play. You play everything you want to play, because you will not regret it like you will regret it if you don't play. So play everything you can, and all you coaches out there, support that.
Thank you, Coach Ronnie Ritter. It's been great. Been a pleasure to have you here on the Mark White Show today to join me to share about your career. It's been a wonderful career. Again, thank you, Terry. The other Terry. I know Coach Saban has a Terry. You have your Terry, Coach Ritter, and she stood beside you through this, and Catherine and John, and we wish John continued success at Russellville High School as he continues his career. And I know I'm one guy here on the microphone that played for you, Coach, but I want to speak for everybody at Lauderdale County High School that's been part of your team to say thank you.
Well, I appreciate that, Mark. It's been great. I also want to mention that I've got 4 grandchildren now. John married Lauren, and they have 2 children, Lincoln and Lillian, and Catherine married Wade, and they have 2, Max and Elliot. That's great, too. The best is yet to come.
All right. Folks, we've been talking to Coach Ronnie Ritter at Lauderdale County High School in Rogersville, Alabama. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation, especially if you've been part of the Lauderdale County community and also other communities like Loretta and Decatur and Muscle Shoals and Russellville. I hope that you've enjoyed this special edition of the Mark White Show. If you enjoy the Mark White Show and it's an encouragement to you, I hope you'll share it with friends, your neighbors, and your family. Let them know about the Mark White Show. Please follow the Mark White Show on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And you can also subscribe to the Mark White Show podcast via TuneIn Radio, Apple iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Audio Boom, SoundCloud, and on YouTube. You have been listening to a Monday edition of the Mark White Show, and this is your host, Mark White, encouraging you to find your purpose by making a difference in someone's life today. Go Tigers.
To live and love in my hometown. These are my kind of people.
Hello there, everybody. This is DJ Svoboda with the Imagine Friends of Imagiville, dedicated to spreading autism acceptance and autism inclusion, and you're listening to The Mark White Show.
Hi, everybody. This is DJ Thomas. You know, raindrops may be falling on your head, but on Kyla's corner, she's living life sunny side up.
Nothing seems to fit.
You are my sunshine, my only. This is
two-parter of Kyla's Corner. You can hear my segment every Saturday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time and 11 a.m. Eastern Time on The Mark White Show. Remember to tune in every Saturday and always live life sunny side up.
Please don't take my sunshine away.
Is it time for a haircut? Go see my friends Philip Butler and B.H. Parker at Southwind Barbershop, located at 1637 Lee Street in Rogersville, Alabama. Give them a call at 256-247-5658. That's 256-247-5658.
If you like hickory smoked ribs that fall apart at the slightest pull, or barbecue shoulders that are so slow smoked each tender bite melts in your mouth, then you are going to love Baby Jack's Barbecue. Baby Jack's Barbecue in Bartlett and Arlington. Try the barbecue chicken, beef brisket sandwich, barbecue potato, it is huge, or the Baby Jack Trio, pork, turkey, or beef brisket sliders. You like wet ribs? They like dry ribs. Get one slab that has them both. Catering? Baby Jack's can feed a family or an army. Drive in, drive through, order online, or come in and set a minute. Baby Jack's Barbecue in Bartlett at Highway 70 in Appling, or in Arlington at Highway 70 just a block west of 385.
Hello, my name is Christian Martinez. I'm a rising senior at Athens Bible School. My school is great because of the wonderful environment in which students can grow and flourish. We have great academics that include the University Preparatory Diploma and dual enrollment courses that lead to an associate's degree before high school graduation. All my teachers and the school's employees are Christians who are devoted to the welfare of students. We have an excellent student body, competitive sports program, and study the Bible first thing every day. It's a great place. Please consider joining us at ABS next year, or give that special child in your life the great opportunity I have.
Mr. Cecil Batchelor is the one that started this business as Dependable Service Center. And even though now it's Green's Dependable Hardware and we're a True Value store, our tagline is still Your Dependable Service Center. We've tried to keep that alive for all these years. Mr. Batchelor really started a good business. We're really excited to be carrying on a long-standing tradition. It's the oldest retail store in the city of Russellville. We're Green's Dependable Hardware, 15220A Highway 43 in Russellville, Alabama. We're right behind McDonald's or right across the street from the hospital. Number is 256-331-0123.
Your Dependable Service Center.
Oh, won't you hear me, people, when I say, well, let's all do something good today.